What is up, my peepholes? This is your guy, Cly, and welcome back to Budget Buys. Now, last week I spoke about how I'd splurged a little bit and bought a couple of Bluetooth speakers that actually cost more than $5 a pop, and this is the first of those speakers. This is the Tajori from GemPion, which I hope I'm pronouncing either of those words correctly, but I found this little guy sitting on eBay for a whopping $10.50 with free shipping. And believe it or not, it was $10.50 with free shipping from the United States. That really caught me off guard because that's what I would expect to buy something like this for from China. So instead of waiting 2 weeks to 2 months to get my speaker, I got it in 2 days. That was really nice. But there seems to be some kind of fire sale going on with this little guy because when I typed in 5-watt speaker on eBay, all I found was page after page after page of this exact model selling in the $10.50 to $11 range. I guess they're prepping for the holiday season. Could be. But let me set this box aside and show you what the speaker looks like. And there you have it. Now, as you can see, they went with a bit of a rugged design aesthetic with this little guy, and that really makes it feel like this is meant to be used on the go. Unlike the vast majority of speakers that I've reviewed on this series thus far. Those typically are meant to be used indoors or in an environment where they're not going to be moved around a lot or have any kind of impacts. This little guy, though, it feels like it could take a hit. Also, this strap right here really drives the on-the-go aesthetic home, and to be perfectly honest, I love this strap. Typically with straps like this on devices of this nature that you get from the manufacturer, they're pretty crappy plastic held in place with a permanent rivet. In this case, they went with a really nice feeling and durable silicone held in place with a Phillips head screw mount thing that I can't quite remember the name of. Please, somebody in the comments tell me what it is. But the beauty of that is that you can just remove that with a Phillips head screwdriver and then snap on your lanyard of choice, so kudos there. Now, if you were paying attention when I had the box out earlier, you'll see that this is actually IP65 rated. And if you're like me prior to recording this video, you probably have no idea what IP65 is. That means that this is rated as dust tight and water resistant to light sprays. So while I wouldn't advise sandblasting this or dropping it in a swimming pool, you'll be perfectly fine if a small dust storm kicks up while you're outside, or a light rain, or you want to take this into the shower. You should be set. In fact, you will be set because I actually did test this in the shower, and it got covered in water, but it still works perfectly fine, and actually sounded better than my dedicated shower speaker that I bought a while back. So I'm rethinking some decisions. Anyway, a side effect of the IP65 rating is the fact that you have a really nice and durable silicone flap over all of your important bits, like your charging port, your line-in jack, because yes, you can actually use non-Bluetooth devices with this speaker. More bonus points there for you. And also, up top, all of the buttons are actually part of this silicone skin around the edge. And if you've watched my series for a while, you'll know that I've in the past reviewed a pair of headphones where that wasn't the case. All of the important buttons were just cut out flaps of plastic over the exposed circuit boards, so dust and water would really wreak havoc on that thing. So yes, that's really nice. Also, not only are these the forward and back track buttons, these actually control the internal volume of the speaker, independent of your device. So that's really nice. It's actually a feature you don't typically get in the 5 below devices. Another feature you don't typically get, at least not with the speakers, is the ability to accept phone calls, because this is supposed to be one that has a microphone built in, though admittedly I have not tested that feature. I've not received any calls while using this speaker. But if it does work, that's even better because, like I said, the 5 below speakers typically don't come with that feature. So take what you can get. 2 more things I want to point out with this design before moving on to the audio test is they kind of fudged back here. They make it look like you get two separate audio drivers when in fact you really only get audio out of this side. I have tested it. If you lay it flat like that, it changes absolutely nothing with how it sounds. But if you turn it over like that, it's muffled as crap. Yeah, it's muffled as crap. So you don't really want to deal with that. Last but not least is probably one of the most unique things about this speaker, and I kind of want to get silly with it to be perfectly honest, and that is this. On the bottom, there is a 1/4-inch coarse bolt mount. And what that means is this is compatible with the standard tripod mounts for video cameras and cell phones and things like that. Kind of like this selfie stick right here. And when I say I want to get silly with this, that's because whenever I go to conventions, there's always a number of people walking around with kind of crappy sounding Bluetooth speakers either hanging from their backpacks or being carried in the palm of their hand like it's a mystical orb. Side note, if anybody knows where I can get a mystical orb-shaped Bluetooth speaker, please tell me. But they're blasting not so great music, so if you want to just be kind of petty, and really it has crossed my mind several times, you can just attach this to a selfie stick, fully extend it, and then carry it above the crowd blasting whatever you want. In my case, of course, it would be Melodeath. In their case, it's typically Vocaloid, so I wonder which would win in the volume category. But yeah, that's just a very interesting feature. Also, actually thinking of the selfie stick use, if you want to hook this up to your phone and then hook up a microphone to your phone and then program a slight delay to the microphone, you'll have a very nice handy speech jammer. I could actually see that being of a lot of use on college campuses. Oh, those were the days. Anyway, let me go ahead and set up something very convoluted. Yes, actually more convoluted than last time, so that I can show you how this sounds compared to the gradient speaker. Alright, so as you can see by more convoluted, I basically mean I am putting another microphone in the setup. This is an Audio-Technica AT2020 studio condenser microphone. It is a side address mic, which means the part facing downward is actually what's going to be picking up the output from the speakers. It's also a much better mic than my lapel mic, so you should be able to tell the nuance between the two different speakers and not just the difference in audio volume. Though don't worry, headphone users, I am going to actually put a little effort into making sure I don't blow out your eardrums. One last thing, I just want to remind everyone that this is a very janky setup that I went into more detail about in my last video. All of the limitations of Bluetooth and that. So the gradient speaker is hooked to my cell phone. The Tajori is hooked up to a laptop. Both of them are streaming audio from another computer via Wi-Fi. So any hiccups you have in the audio output is based purely on the fidelity of my Wi-Fi connection, thanks to the lovely storms I have going on at the moment. And yes, there will be hiccups. This is like my 5th time trying this, and holy crap were they bad. Actually makes me kind of embarrassed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, I'm going to start off with the gradient speaker, and I'm going to try to remember to tell you which speaker is playing at which time if you couldn't tell from the difference in volume and fidelity. So, let's go. And I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because there were very few hiccups that time. So, as you could probably hear, just like the gradient speaker before it, the Tajori has a much better volume and audio fidelity than the model it is put up against. We'll see if that streak continues onward next week when I put it up against a speaker that is worth $20. So there's that. So the Tajori sounds better than the Gradient, and the Gradient sounds better than the Cube. One more thing I completely forgot to mention previously in the video, and that is battery life, because that's probably going to be one of the big deciders between buying a $5 speaker and a $10 speaker. So I mentioned last time that the Gradient has a whopping 300 milliamp hours of battery life, whereas the Tajori has 1500 milliamp hours. That is a 5 times capacity. Now, just because it's 5 times capacity does not mean you're going to get 5 times the playback, simply because it is 140% of the previous speaker's output. This is a 3 watt, this is a 5 watt. So you don't get 5 to 10 hours of use. Instead, where this gets 1.5 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours, somewhere in that neighborhood, this gets 6 to 8 hours. So it's got a nice battery life, and I can attest to the battery life, just like I can attest to it being decent to use in the shower, because I let this guy roll on for 6.5, 7 hours, and it didn't stutter or cut out on me once. Now, admittedly, that was at a moderate listening volume, and I wasn't playing my lovely metal. I was actually playing a Fallout music collection, because of course I was. So I admittedly had it in ideal conditions with relatively low power output and relatively low power consumption audio. However, it is still far superior in battery life to any of the Bluetooth speakers that I've reviewed from 5 Below. So my overall verdict is, yeah, this is definitely worth $10. If I think these are worth $5, which I do because they are convenient to get your hands on if you need one, if you've got a little bit of time to wait for shipping, you might want to think about getting a Bluetooth speaker online, and the GemPion Tajori is not a bad one to go with. Though admittedly, the website they advertise on their packaging does not exist. Of course it doesn't, because yeah. Maybe that's why you're seeing a lot of these on eBay. Either way, it's not bad. So, I think I've rambled on way more than I needed to. You can tell I've done quite a few takes of this and I'm kind of brain frazzled. But until next time, this is your guy, Cly, signing off.